Welcome back to the Sonny Talk Spurs YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about Wilson Odobert because I'll be honest, and I'm not usually as honest as this when I talk about transfers and signings. I don't know a lot about him, but I'm joined by someone who does know a lot about him. So we're going to be talking about the signing. Is he going to be impactful? Should he start? Because there's a lot of talk that he should start for Spurs. But without further ado, Jacob Horsfall, massive Burnley fan and a great YouTuber. His link will be in the description down below. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. A little bit less good after the Wilson Odobert transfer and a few other departures over the past few days. But yeah, I'm doing good. Still optimistic for the season. So
Yeah, I mean, you've had a really good start under Scotty P, our former player as well. So I'm sure we'll probably touch on that at the very end. But to start, as I say, I'm not so sure about this signing. Not in the sense of I doubt it, but I don't know a lot about him. So could you sort of tell me and tell my audience as well, who may not have seen him last season, sort of how did he get on last season for Burnley? Because obviously Burnley, it was a tricky campaign. I mean, Vincent Kompany's gone off to Bayern Munich and this guy's come over to Spurs. So something must have been going sort of right.
yeah, it was kind of a weird one with Odobert, to be fair. We signed him for, I think it was about 11 million euros. Obviously, he's been through the PSG Academy. I believe he was playing for Troyes last season, not last season, but the season before. Signed him for 11 million euros, but he didn't really get a look in. He was kind of coming in as that left winger, I think. And we didn't. We also signed Luka Kolyosho, who had played about 56 minutes of professional men's football before coming to Burnley. So I think the club had expected Kolyosho to be the backup and Odobert to kind of be that main left winger, but Kolyosho started brilliantly. So Odobert kind of struggled for minutes. I'm pretty sure the first time he made an appearance or made a start was against Chelsea at the Turf, and he scored, being Burnley's youngest ever goal scorer at 18 years old. But then he was still not really in the team. Kolyosho took back that left wing spot until about December time, in which he was injured against Wolves and out for the rest of the season. And then Odobert came in and scored an absolute worldie against Brighton at the Amex, where we drew 1-1. And then from there, he kind of just grew and grew into this more incredibly integral player in the team. But as the season progressed as well, he drifted from being our left wing option who could beat a man without even trying 1v1, carry the ball down the line, go inside, go on the outside with both feet. He became sort of the number 10 in the team, and was often kind of the link between midfield and attack. I know specifically the game against Sheffield United is a really good example where he would come back into the first phase, pick the ball up, beat a few players, and carry us up the field. And he also carried that into this season as well. In that game against Luton, he was the number 10 again. So I think maybe from February time till the end of the season, he was the number 10 for Burnley. But it kind of, for me, displays why he could potentially be the right winger for Tottenham, because he can use both feet. He can come inside on both feet as well, and also hit the byline again on his right foot or his left foot. But overall, nothing but positives about Odobert and his time there. The way he conducted himself, everything just seemed like such a great bloke as well. There's a few obviously issues with his game, but last season overall it turned out to be a really, really good signing.
No, that's all positive to hear. And I mean, you speak there of his versatility. I was looking at his sort of transfer mark, sort of average positions for Burnley. And that's what we need because, you never know. Madison, Kulusevski playing in the eights could maybe work in that position. Wingers, I mean, Brennan Johnson was slated for his performance against Leicester on Monday night. So that place is up for grabs. It's a good fee. It was a transfer that sort of came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of us. So, and you mentioned a lot of his sort of strengths there. And maybe this is where we go on to my next question. What would you say are some of his best strengths? And on the flip side, is there any weaknesses to his game that you've sort of highlighted?
Yeah, there's definitely weaknesses, and I'll talk about the strengths first because 1v1, I mean, he's ridiculous. I think he completed 2.26 successful dribbles per 90, which was, I believe, he had also had the best success rate in the Burnley squad from the forwards. And honestly, when you get him 1v1 isolated, he's just so. It's weird to say because I feel like, for example, and I'm no Spurs fans may not know too much about him, but someone like Luka Kolyosho, who was formerly in that left wing position, he could beat his man brilliantly as well. But it wasn't as controlled. And I feel like nowadays, when you see someone that's brilliant beating his man, it's never really so much control. And it's more just about that pace and the speed to get past them. But Odobert, he's so refined and he has that technical ability which allows him to not just beat his man, but also control, slow it back down. The way he slows down after a quick sprint to accelerate away from a player is mental. Like, I remember when we played Liverpool, he ran Trent Alexander-Arnold absolutely ragged for the full game. And I know we didn't win that game, but he absolutely bullied him. And it's not really a big thing to say with it being Trent, but he did absolutely bully him. And the centre-backs, even when he was coming inside, centre-backs couldn't really handle him either. And that's kind of a big thing, Liverpool centre-halves. But yeah, I think definitely for me, receiving on the back foot's massive in the half spaces. He can receive it, turn, and go. He's creative as well. He tries them big passes. He tries them threaded through balls, and he has the ability to complete them. Obviously, still not really there completely, being 19 years old, but definitely showing the right signs. He's also, again, exceptional 1v1. If you can get him isolated, you can put your money on him, probably going past the player. His ball striking can be really nice as well on his right foot. Left foot, it's not as strong, obviously being his weaker side, but he generates so much power with both feet. Just the placement a little bit off that left foot. He scored some great goals for Burnley on his right foot last season. And then the weaknesses for me, really, it's the physical side of the game, which is, I think, obviously, if you're on the wing, it's not too bad. But when he was playing the number 10 for us, he was pushed off the ball very easily sometimes. If you can get really tight with him, he can be shouldered off it, and he doesn't show too much fight in him, which I'm not saying he's not, he is a hard worker, gets back defensively. He's shown that for the whole time he's been at Burnley, but he can be pushed off it and he doesn't necessarily look to fight back with it. But that could just be because he's not the strongest of players. And again, he's 19 years old. It's kind of what you would expect, I think.
And I mean that is true, but I guess the thing is we're signing a lot of youngsters now. It's the way that modern football's going as well, and a lot of them are, their main attribute is they're not fully developed. They're not like the peak specimen that they are going to be when they hit their like late 20s. But you say some really good points there, and it is quite refreshing to have a player like this. I mean, I guess my next question would be along the lines of we were linked to the likes of Pedro Neto, we were linked with the likes of Desiree Doué, who's gone to PSG. Obviously, Pedro Neto went to Chelsea, Rafinha at Barcelona. We've been linked with a lot of wingers. So, do you sort of see this as the perfect fit for Spurs instead of going down the route of those other signings? And on the back of that, do you think he's got a good case to start this season? Because, when I heard this signing and the way it was announced, I thought, no, he's probably going to go out on loan. Maybe he won't feature. But it seems like there is a chance. So, he's been given a squad number. There is potential he could be a feature this season.
Yeah, I think obviously you have the likes of Pedro Neto and things like that. You've got them injury problems there. Odobert is 100% fit. I don't really think he missed a game through injury last season. Once he came in consistently from that December period. And will he start? It's a hard one. Like I said, he was playing in a poor Burnley side. He put up some very solid numbers considering he was in a poor Burnley side. But he's going to be displacing Brennan Johnson. I know Tottenham fans aren't too fond, but the only questions I've got really with Odobert is, can he get more goals? You know what I mean? I think for Burnley scored 3 goals last season, which again, playing a poor Burnley side whose top scorer scored 5, 3 goals isn't too bad for him. Playing as that number 10 slash kind of left winger. But with Tottenham, I feel like it's a little bit of a risk. He's 19 years old, coming from Burnley, who were relegated last season, signing from the Championship for what was, I think, it's around £30 million. It's a big fee in terms of when you look at where he's coming from and things like that. But I do think he has the potential to start. Whether he can make an impact this season is 100% down to Ange and how he can kind of find the best from him. I still would say his best position is as a number 10 from when I've seen him. And I think that's kind of where you've got your James Maddisons who could potentially take up that role. Lucas Bergvall could potentially take up that role. So he's got some very strong competition. But I think he should definitely be given the chance. I think if Johnson picks up an injury or something like that, and Kulusevski's maybe not chosen to play on that right wing, there's a lot of things that Odobert has that Johnson doesn't. Likewise, Johnson has a few things that Odobert doesn't. But I think watching the Leicester game, honestly, it's hard to say because obviously we've not seen him for Tottenham yet. But from a Burnley point of view, watching that Tottenham game, I think Odobert could change a lot of things. As in, there was a lot of reliance going down that left hand side with Son. Obviously, it's Heung-Min Son, but getting him isolated. Whereas Johnson, there was less much so of trying to get him to go at a defender, I think. And when he did, didn't really do it too well. Whereas if you get Odobert in there, I think Odobert will just naturally cause issues for other teams. You'll put things in their head where they can't go and triple up on Son on the left-hand side because Odobert will equally just be as good at taking on his man and shifting a ball into the box. His delivery's good as well. Yeah, I think that later on in the season, maybe after a couple of months, where you can settle in, few substitution cameos, maybe a couple of cup games start, we could see Odobert making a real impact at Tottenham because honestly, he's got all the potential in the world. He's honestly one of the best players I've seen play for Burnley in terms of technical ability. Which I'm sure is probably quite nice to hear. Not that we've had
Yeah.
some amazing players, but
Yeah, well, better than George Boyd, better than Ashley Barnes, or
hey, we once had Stephen Defoe. He was all right.
true. I forgot about him.
But yeah, one of the more technically gifted players I've ever seen play for Burnley. So if he can be nurtured right, which I believe Ange probably will do, and Ange is going to have to change his game a little bit to fit Tottenham a bit more. But yeah, I think eventually Odobert could be a starting option. Maybe not years in time, but maybe just a couple of months, a few games into the season when he's settled, he could start definitely.
Yeah, that's the only thing with you saying he's a better 10. I feel like we've got a lot of players who can play that position, or I say 10/8, but it's the 6 that the fans are crying out for. And on the Brennan Johnson stuff, yeah, I mean, there was a moment in the game where he tackles his opponent and then sort of slows the game down where he should have just ran at the, been more direct. And Odobert sounds like he could be that direct winger. I guess for Ange's wingers as well, they don't necessarily have to get goals. It's more the assists. And if he's got good delivery, those sort of like zippy on the floor crosses that we see and something that Solanke can basically eat up all day is basically what we need. Because, we saw how wasteful we were against Leicester and how we couldn't put these chances away. But if we're just creating more chances and they're more clear cut, then hopefully, a player like Odobert can get some goals. And it's just good to have options and different wingers. I feel like all our wingers offer something a bit different, maybe some better than others, depending if it's Timo Werner or Brennan Johnson or Kulusevski. But no, I'm very positive about this signing. I feel like it is one for the future. You could say more. A lot of these signings are, and that's where the Spurs fan base get a bit disgruntled because they think, why aren't we signing a here and now sort of winger? But, as you say, Ange gets him under his wing. Burnley play that sort of expansive football that Tottenham also play as well, just with a better caliber of player and defender, so as well. But yeah, I'm positive about it. But to round off then, I guess I want to speak about Scott Parker at Burnley because he's hit the ground running. Started the season off very, very strongly. And he's a manager who's been questioned, but there has been the occasional link back to Spurs potentially in the future. So I just want to get your honest answer because, Burnley has changed over the last couple of years. You've gone from Sean Dyche, Vincent Kompany, now Scotty P. Could you see like Scott Parker ever going to that top level? I know it's a horrible question to ask, but, how has he started with his play at Burnley? And is it just sort of like this is his level and he's just got to sort of build himself up gradually?
I think to be fair, there's from obviously being very early doors. I mean, we've played Luton and Cardiff, and that's it. And we only saw one pre-season game, and that was just kind of a bit of a, the tactics weren't really there. It was just a bit of a run out against Cadiz. But what I've noticed is things have definitely changed in the way he's playing. I think Parker was known definitely for not changing and sticking to that very company-like stuff. Sitting that he wants to play possession football. It gets a bit boring, and he's not going to change. Whereas I mean, as Josh Brownell's actually said after we beat Luton, that the setup will change game to game depending on who we're playing against. And we've shown that straight away. We've played on the break in the both two opening games and we've scored 9 goals. We've sat back deeper. We've played with a 5 at the back when we're defending, going for a 5-2-3, pressing from the front as well. But then we've also just absolutely murdered teams in transition. Odobert was a big part of that in the first game. His pace and deep runs from deeper in the pitch were massive against Luton. Obviously, he scored. But yeah, I think it's hard to say. I mean, Park had allegedly gone after his time. Was it in? I can't remember where he was sacked from before. Bruges, Club Bruges, where he was, where he had a bit of a rough time there. He then went to work with Thomas Tuchel to learn things himself. And it does feel like he's got a bit more of a pragmatic approach now. He's wanting to just kind of adapt to the opposition. And I mean, Burnley squad, don't get me wrong, Burnley squad, as of right now, you could put an 8-year-old in charge and would probably still get top 6. But Parker, the tactical setup, and I've looked at it in a bit of depth on my channel, and I think it is definitely promising signs. We've got to see how the season finishes, and I'm still very, very, very questioning whether or not you will do it in the Premier League if we should go up, and whether or not the club will sack him in the summer and get someone else, even if he does get promoted. But yeah, I think there's definitely early doors. There's very, very positive signs, and like I said before, much more pragmatic than the former Scott Parker that we knew and didn't love. But now it seems like he's getting fans on side and everything. So it's definitely been a promising start for him. Whether or not he can go to the top level, I mean, he's still a young manager, isn't he? So he's got plenty of time to get himself there. I can't see him doing a Kompany 2 seasons and then jetting off to Bayern Munich. I still don't know how he did that. Um, but yeah, I think maybe eventually it'll be interesting to see how, if he takes Burnley up, how he then does in the Premier League. I think if he stays with this kind of defending first kind of approach, which he's had with us so far, it could be a lot better than what Kompany did.
Yeah, I mean, I saw I think the reason he gets questioned is because, and it's always a tweet that seems to pop up, is the Fulham team that he got relegated because it had the likes of Mitrovic and Anderson and, some really strong first team names on that, team sheet. So, yeah, I guess we'll see about Scott Park. I mean, he's played for so many clubs, he's always going to probably get jobs because of his name and his, leadership qualities and the way he carries himself, and also loves a good taste in cardigans that are very expensive, which I find kind of funny when that's mentioned on Twitter.
Yeah,
But
he's got his £1,500 bomber jacket out.
especially in Burnley, I mean,
He's gonna
it
get
gets
robbed
cold up
off
there.
him.
Oh, I
And when
didn't
he,
mean it like that. I meant it's cold up there.
oh no, when he comes to Burnley versus Blackburn at Derby, someone will probably try and nick it off him.
But thank you, Jacob. I feel like I now know a bit more about Wilson Odobert, and I'm looking forward to seeing him because I like the signing Spurs have made. I mean, just quickly, actually, what have you made of Solanke and Archie Gray and Yang as well, our Korean winger who's coming in as well?
Um, I've been a big fan for Archie Gray for ages. Like I've always said that lad will go to the very, very top. A bit of an interesting one when I saw him go for Tottenham because I thought maybe he would have gone to someone like a Brentford who were obviously
Yeah.
interested. But obviously Tottenham jumping a bit earlier. He offers cover at right back. Played there last season. Obviously better as more of like a number 6/number 8. But I feel like that's just the future for Tottenham. Archie Gray will eventually be that kind of number 8. And then Solanke, I mean, I've been singing his praises for ages. I actually started last season, I took the risk, whacked him straight in my FPL team before the season started, jumped the gun on everyone, and I was bang on. But yeah, I thought against Leicester he was really good. His movement is just exceptional. Didn't really get the best of service, which I feel like where Odobert could potentially come in. I mean, Odobert's crossing last season, he should have had at least another 7 assists. If he didn't have Datro Fofana trying to put them in the back of the net. But with Solanke, you can actually hit a ball. It should be all right. But yeah, I thought Solanke was great. Obviously, still a lot to come from him. He's got to adapt a bit more to Tottenham, got to kind of settle with Tottenham. But I think that opening game was really promising and suggests that he's going to be a really nice sign and definitely a better fit than Richarlison, in my opinion. And then Lucas Bergvall, I've been speaking to a few Tottenham fans, and they're all raving about. I can't say I've watched him too much. Watched him a bit in that Leicester game, and I thought he was good. Obviously, had that little mistake, and Vicario went absolutely mental. But yeah, I thought he's another one, another young lad who will eventually be starting. I mean, Tottenham's midfield could be really nice in the future if you have someone maybe a new number 6, but if you have Sarr, Bergvall, Gray as that eventual midfield. When they've obviously grown a bit older, got a little bit stronger. You don't really want Archie Gray and Bergvall next to each other when they're like built like cheese strings. But yeah, I think them three definitely. I think all the signs you've made this summer are definitely positive. Obviously, like you said, Tottenham probably do want some big like bomber signing to come in and be like, yeah, statement, which I think Solanke could be. That so many clubs wanted him, and he would have been perfect for I think anyone other than City, really, or maybe Liverpool would have benefited from signing Solanke. So Tottenham got him, and I think it's a really, really good sign. Yeah, I think all of them have been really positive.
Yeah, I thought Solanke had a good debut as well. Good movement, just maybe snatching at a few shots. And I agree with the midfield. It just, I think they need to hit the gym a bit, some of these players, just bulk up a little bit. But actually, one bonus question. Are you still keeping Weghorst? Because I love him. I think he's great, but is he off?
No, I'm pretty sure he's off. Yeah, it was nice whilst it lasted. First 2 games came on, grabbed Scott Parker and threw him at the fans. That was interesting. Obviously, he's had a weird time at Burnley. Came back when we got
Mm.
promoted, got booed off the pitch in a pre-season friendly when he came on, and then I think that was him kind of gone. But I think we'll probably get a fee. There's been loads of links with him to Ajax, which is where I think you'll probably end up going, and we'll get a nice fee from him. And it was a weird time. It wasn't good. It was probably bad, but it was an interesting time with where goes at Burnley. But yeah, I mean, he's just funny, and he like some of the stuff he does. He's just like, what? Like, he's the first 6'6" bloke I've ever seen that can't win a header for his life. But and then when he goes to Holland, he'll just score headers for fun. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
is
yeah,
what it is.
the only thing I can give to him is the passion he had every time he put on the shirt was amazing. But yeah, he'll be off to probably to like Ajax or something, I believe.
Yeah, no, fair play. And the window's still open, so there's a lot still to happen. But thank you very much, Jacob. Really enjoyed that. And I feel like I'm more enlightened to what Wilson Odobert can do for Spurs. But before we go, do you want to plug anything on your channel? I know you said you're going to do your own Wilson Odobert, and I guess you're going to go more in on detail and stats and all that sort of stuff. So anything you want to plug?
Yeah, just my YouTube really. Obviously posting on TikTok as well. Just Jacob Horsfall. Like you said, gonna be doing a Wilson Odobert video. I was on holiday when the transfer first came out, so I'm gonna go in a bit of depth on how I think he could be potentially Tottenham's solution with the issues that we saw against Leicester. But yeah, thanks for having us on.
No, pleasure. We'll have to do it a bit more. Hopefully, if we get each other in the FA Cup again or something like last season, but we'll see about that. But yeah, massive thank you, Jacob. Go check out his channel. And if you're new to my channel as well, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, become a member in the link in the description down below. And until next time, probably a reaction now to the Everton game. I'll see you guys then. Bye.